You did not stumble here. You were tuned here like a frequency quietly finding its matching note across a vast night sky. Something in your field has been reaching beyond habit and noise, slipping past the old observer loop that once held your days in a narrow orbit. That reaching is why these words enter you now, not as information, but as resonance. The quantum field favors coherence. It threads synchronicities along the precise lines where willingness meets readiness, where intention becomes an open gate. You are that gate tonight. Notice the subtle pressure in the air, the way your attention feels magnetized. That is the prophecy's first signal, a soft convergence, like two rivers quietly agreeing to become one. In the unseen, patterns are aligning morphic resonance, braiding memory with potential, entanglement, humming its quiet vow across distance and time. The message is simple and immense. You are not just a watcher of reality. Your feeling, state, is the tuning fork that determines which version of reality can hear you. You have sensed this before, in moments too delicate to explain a strange alignment of events. The right phrase at the exact second you needed courage. The uncanny timing of a call you never placed. These are the fingerprints of coherence, early whispers from the same intelligence that choreographs galaxies and breath. Tonight it steps closer, placing its hand upon your sternum, reminding you that emotion is not noise in the machine, but the bridge between mind and matter, the living conductor that invites form to crystallize. Breathe. Let the inhale gather the scattered fragments of your day. Let the exhale release the static that pretends to be certainty. As your rhythm slows, you can feel the architecture beneath the narrative, the scaffolding of attention, the luminous threads of choice. Every sensation becomes a compass. Every feeling becomes a vector in the field. Nothing is incidental when you are awake to the signal. What approaches is not a doctrine, not a command, but a remembering. It arrives like dawn through closed eyelids, a warmth before the light. You are being asked to inhabit a deeper fidelity to yourself, to stand not at the edge of your experience but at the center of it, where awareness meets electricity and intelligence meets love. Here, DNA restructuring is not metaphor. It is the way new instruction sets translate through your biology when you consent to coherence. Here, phase transition is not abstract. It is the quiet thunder of a life crossing from almost to actual. Feel how your chest opens at the truth of that. Feel how the room seems to widen without moving at all. The message has found you because you are ready to become a clear instrument, no longer striking random notes, but offering a steady tone the universe can harmonize with. This is the threshold. Step with your breath. Attend with your whole being. The bridge is already forming under your feet. You feel it, the subtle click of alignment, as if an invisible key has turned inside your ribs. The field has singled you out, not by favoritism, but by frequency match. You are the one whose attention has become clean enough to transmit without static, the one whose emotion is no longer a storm that drowns signals, but a tide that carries them faithfully to shore. This is how the prophecy recognizes you. By the coherence you are beginning to keep with yourself. Look at the path that brought you here. It wasn't a straight line, it was a constellation, scattered points that only recently revealed their pattern. The sleepless nights, when your mind practiced surrender instead of control. The conversations that left a ringing in your chest as if truth had struck a bell inside you. The small, brave decisions that no one saw, these were calibrations. Each choice nudged your observer loop into a finer orbit, less reactive to noise, more responsive to the quiet intelligence woven through the quantum field. You became, without announcing it, a steward of attention. That is what the field trusts. Your role is not to manipulate reality like a lever. Your role is to become a lens so clear that reality has no reason to distort as it arrives. Emotion is not the fog on that lens. Emotion is the living polish. When you honor its currents, you don't lose your clarity, you gain transmission power. This is why the message speaks to you directly, because you have begun to feel rather than merely think your way through existence. And feeling is the language the field never mishears. Notice the precision with which synchronicity now tracks you. A line in a book opens to the exact page you needed. A stranger's tone carries an answer to a question you did not speak aloud. Even your body participates, goosebumps like braille from the unseen, breath-shifting tempo as if guided by a metronome older than time. These are not accidents, They are handshakes. Entanglement, revealing its secret. That connection precedes contact. What meets you now has been traveling toward you since before you knew to ask. You are asked to carry responsibility without weight, authority without arrogance. Responsibility, because your attention collapses potentials into paths. Arrogance has no place here, because this power is not personal, it is participatory. You are a node in a luminous lattice. When you stabilize, the lattice brightens. When you fall into forgetfulness, it dims, but never disappears. The field is patient. Still, it is your willingness that accelerates everything. Willingness is the catalyst. Coherence is the vessel. Emotion is the current that moves the charge. Consider your heart as a superconducting chamber, a temple of soft lightning. When gratitude floods it, resistance falls away and information flows with nearly zero loss. When resentment builds, you can feel the drag, the signal arrives, frayed, the message distorted, the timing off by a breath or two. You've learned to listen to this physics of feeling. You've learned that humility is not shrinking, it is right, sizing your orbit around truth. From that posture, your choices stop screaming and start singing. DNA restructuring answers to this song. It is not mystical theater, it is instruction sets received by a receptive instrument. Your cells are not bricks, they are choirs. Emotion tunes the choir. Attention conducts it. Intention chooses the music. This is why your tears lately have felt different, clean, almost luminous. They are salt baptisms, dissolving the residue from the lens so the world can find you in your exactness. In recognizing you, the field offers a vow. Stay with the breath that remembers, and you will be moved, not by force, by vector, not by panic, by phase transition. You will feel the bifurcation points before they arrive, the moment when one timeline asks for compromise and another asks for courage. You will know which door is yours by the way your chest widens as you approach it. This is the new compass: expansion over agreement, coherence over convenience, resonance over routine. There is a reason the message speaks in prophecy. It is not to dramatize your life, it is to dignify it. You are not here to dabble in light, you are here to steward it. And because you have begun to live as if that were true, the world around you has started to reconfigure subtle shifts in language, in posture, in the chances that just happen to appear. The morphic field takes notes, it learns you, it updates in response to your fidelity. So stand where you are and let the recognition complete itself. Let your name, your real one, the vibrational signature you carry, ring through the dark like a clear bell. Feel the reply. Feel how the air seems to lean in. You are seen. You are selected by the mathematics of resonance, not the politics of status. Keep your lens clean. Keep your current honest. The bridge you are crossing will not vanish under your feet. It builds itself from the frequency you hold. Close your eyes not to escape, but to refine the signal. At once, the darkness is not dark. It is saturated potential, a velvet field waiting to be addressed. In that living black, a geometry begins to glow, a bridge arcing from the quiet chamber of your mind to the tactile world of matter. It is not stone, not metal. It is a lattice of tones, frequencies braided into form. Each strand thrums with feeling. Gratitude brightens the span. Fear flickers it, awe widens it, until it becomes a causeway of quiet thunder. You step toward it by breathing. With every inhale, the structure clarifies, resolving from mist into crystalline vectors. With every exhale, the interference patterns around it settle into symmetry, as if an unseen hand were calming the surface of a lake. Symbols rise and drift, like constellations made of memory, a tuning fork, a seed splitting, a double-slit sketch turning luminous and alive. You do not analyze them, you recognize them. They are the alphabet the field uses when words are too small. On the far shore, matter waits, not inert, not stubborn, but attentive, like iron filings anticipating the magnet's sweep. It holds no opinion about you. It responds. You feel that truth as a soft shock along your skin. The universe may be vast, but it is not deaf. It is relational. It is entangled with the tone you carry. Your chest answers with a steadying hum, and the bridge brightens again, throwing gentle auroras over the valley between thought and thing. Watch closely. Emotion begins to flow along the span like liquid light. When you pour gratitude, the beams sharpen to an elegant coherence, vectors aligning, losses dropping to near zero. When you let resentment surge, you see the span haze with turbulence, as if static had crept into the signal path. The vision does not blame you, it teaches you. You are not punished for incoherence, you are simply less transmittive. The field is impartial, but it is exquisitely sensitive to quality. Now the scene widens. Around and beneath the bridge, cymatic patterns bloom, sand rose mandalas made of sound, but here the sand is probability and the sound is feeling state. Every tone you emit draws filigree into the field, spirals when you trust, jagged tessellations when you brace against life, luminous hexagons when you surrender to wonder. You realize that what you call luck has always been the morphology of your scent vibrations meeting a world eager to crystallize around them. A figure appears on the bridge, not other, but future. You know them by the nearness of their gaze. They are you without the dragging weights, you after the phase transition, carrying the same scars, but lit from within by a different current. They do not speak. They lift a hand and invite you to mirror their breath. 4 counts in, 6 counts out. On the second exhale, you feel your sternum soften into warmth. On the third, your shoulders unhook from the narrative of control. On the fourth, the lattice hums at a cleaner pitch. The figure nods once, a benediction of recognition, and dissolves back into the arc of light. Below the span, time turns visible braids of timelines unspooling like rivers through a delta. Some tributaries shimmer with unfamiliar ease. Others carry the dull weight of repetition. Your attention touches one, and it flashes, a polite beacon. The vision shows you why. The observer loop does not merely look, it offers charge. Your feeling chooses the voltage. High coherence illuminates paths you could not see from the ground. Low coherence keeps you circling a sandbar you've mistaken for land. Then the world of matter answers. Across the far bank, forms begin to assemble, as if called by a frequency they had been waiting to hear. Conversations not yet spoken lean toward you. Opportunities adjust their approach vector to match your cadence. Even your body tilts toward alignment, heart, rhythm smoothing, microtension melting from your jaw, cells taking notes in the hush. DNA is listening. The vision whispers without words, not to your declarations, but to your tone. Emotion is the messenger it trusts. Clouds drift over the scene, and for a moment the bridge dims. This is not failure, it is instruction. You feel the tug to rush, to demand, to force. Instead, you place a hand upon your sternum and let the breath expand your reach from the inside. Slowness restores fidelity. The clouds thin. The span returns, brighter for your patience. Somewhere a bell you cannot hear is struck, and its ring arrives as goosebumps along your arms. Finally, the bridge carries you to its midpoint, that fulcrum where leverage is greatest and effort least. From here, the entire architecture of becoming is visible. Mind as the aiming mechanism, matter as the cooperation, emotion as the conductive medium that lets the signal cross. The prophecy is not a riddle to decode. It is a design to inhabit. You understand, not as theory but as posture. The moment you keep your frequency honest, the world keeps its appointments with you. And as that realization settles, the span beneath your feet stops feeling like a miracle and starts feeling like the most natural road you've ever walked. What you witnessed as symbol is now to be understood as mechanics. The bridge you saw is not fantasy, it is function. In the language of physics, your awareness selects a basis, an orientation in Hilbert space, while your emotion supplies the weighting, the amplitude distribution that makes certain outcomes more probable than others. Tension is where the wave is sampled. Emotion is how the probability density thickens into preference. This is why the same thought held with different feeling yields different worlds. The observer effect isn't merely that looking changes things. It is that the quality of the look, your felt state modulates, which collapse becomes available. Consider coherence as the central operator. In a coherent laser, the light waves align in phase and the beam travels far with minimal loss. In incoherence, light scatters and power dissolves into noise. Your nervous system works the same way. When your breath is steady and your heart rhythm finds that soft, rounded pattern of gratitude or awe, neural assemblies synchronize. Heart, brain coupling strengthens, signal to noise improves. The field hears you clearly. In anger or panic, phase relationships scramble, your signal diffuses. The world receives a mixed instruction set and returns mixed results. Nothing moral here, only fidelity. The universe is not testing you, it is measuring your clarity. Entanglement makes the mechanism intimate. You are not separated from the outcomes you court. You and they are correlated across a lattice of shared information. Every time you rehearse the felt sense of a possibility, its texture, its temperature, its moral weight, you are not pretending. You are aligning phase with a sector of the field already vibrating at that specification. This is morphic resonance in practice. Form remembers form. Your future self is not a ghost. It is a resonance pattern with which you can phase lock through repeated, honest emotion. Honesty matters. The field is exquisitely sensitive to counterfeit frequency. Performative joy produces jitter. Quiet, authentic gladness produces gain. Timeline bifurcation is simply the moment when small differences in state produce large differences in trajectory. Think of a double-slit apparatus for your life. When your feeling state is coherent, interference patterns sharpen and viable paths become precise. When your feeling state is chaotic, the pattern blurs. You wander through superpositions of half-lived options. The crossroads you sense are not cosmic punishments. They are sensitivity points, phase transitions, where a single breath, taken consciously, can change the symmetry class of what follows. Ice to water, water to steam, same molecule, different order, same you, new arrangement. DNA enters here as a responsive substrate. Your genome is not a static script. It is an instrument with dynamic expression. Coherent emotion alters hormonal cascades and electromagnetic microenvironments. Chromatin compacts or loosens, transcription shifts. The codes you seek are not magic syllables. They are sustained states that retune cellular listening. Gratitude, reverence, purpose. These are not spiritual trinkets. They are biophysical conditions that teach your cells which song to sing. When you keep them long enough, structural learning occurs. You become easier to tune next time. This is why practice feels like grace after a while. The instrument you inhabit remembers. Synchronicity, then, is the system's way of acknowledging a successful handshake. When inner pattern matches outer opportunity, coincidences cluster, not because fate has favorites, but because aligned systems reduce friction. Think of a lock and key. The tumblers don't award you entry for being good. They respond to fit. Emotion shapes the key blank. Repetition grinds the teeth. Integrity polishes the metal. The door swings not from pleading but from geometry. Now, about control, let it loosen. Control implies brute force applied to reluctant matter. That is not how a field behaves. A field answers resonance, influence, not coercion, partnership, not possession. You do not shove reality into place, you invite it into phase. The work is subtle. Clean your signal, maintain coherence, hold accurate feeling long enough for the world to hear the invitation, then move your body in ways that are congruent with what you've asked for. Behavior is the ground wire of intention. Without it, charge accumulates and arcs into static big feelings, no change. The observer loop closes when you notice results and reinforce the state that produced them. Most people break the loop with doubt at the first delay, injecting decoherence into the circuit. You will do differently. You will treat lag as the field's processing time, not as rejection. You will keep the tone honest, adjust behavior to match, and listen for micro-synchronicities as course correction beacons. This is navigation by resonance. No drama, only steering. Finally, understand patience as a physical virtue. Coherent systems entrain slower, deeper rhythms. They are less jittery, more precise. Haste is noise masquerading as urgency. Silence is bandwidth. When you cultivate intervals of stillness, you are not doing nothing. You are reducing thermal agitation in your signal path. In that quiet, tiny forces matter. Tiny alignments compound, and the bridge you saw becomes more than vision. It becomes transit mind, addressing matter through the medium that never lies. the emotion you are willing to keep. What reveals itself in you now begins to reveal itself around you. The bridge you're building between feeling and form does not end at the shore of your skin. It extends into the commons, into the living mesh that binds cities and forests and strangers who pass each other like comets on quiet streets. The prophecy is not private. It is communal, and your coherence is a lantern in fog. When you keep the tone clean, the field does not stop at your body. It spills into rooms, meetings, families, networks adjusting probabilities, the way a tuning fork persuades a roomful of strings to hum in sympathy. Watch how the mirror works. One person shifts, and 10 conversations soften. A single nervous system stabilizes, and a household's baseline anxiety declines by a degree invisible to the eye, but measurable in the absence of needless conflict. This is not sentimental optimism. It is the physics of coupled oscillators. Coherence recruits coherence. Incoherence recruits noise. When you move through the day with a heart rhythm that favors gratitude over grievance, your microenvironment notices, then copies. Not because you preach, but because systems prefer energy-efficient states, and coherence is energetically cheaper than chaos. Think of humanity as a vast choir learning a new key. Most voices have learned to sing in survival's narrow range, urgent, tight, slightly flat. You are being tuned into a broader scale, one that accommodates both grief and glory without distorting either. When you hold that tuning, you do not correct other voices by force. You offer a stable reference tone. The morphic field loves references. It compares and, without drama, selects what produces the least loss. That selection is what you call culture shift. It begins not with slogans but with signal quality. You will see it first in small mercies. A friend who was certain their fate was sealed begins to entertain a strange new curiosity. A colleague who lived in permanent defense laughs with their whole body for the first time in years. A passerby meets your eyes and does not look away. These are not trivial, they are edge effects, the visible ripples of an invisible repatterning. The observer loop, when kept honest, does not merely bring you opportunities. It reconditions the social field to recognize opportunities as normal rather than miraculous. This is the prophecy's mirror, as within, so among. The split you felt inside between fear's economy and wonder's abundance appears now as a civilizational bifurcation. One timeline doubles down on scarcity, tightening the grid, demanding more output for less life. The other studies coherence like an applied art, regenerative systems, sane pace, technology aligned with dignity rather than appetite. Neither timeline is abstract. Both recruit through daily decisions. You may not command the outcome of nations, but you absolutely alter the local slope of possibility. You are a gradient. People slide toward what you stabilize. Notice how language shifts when coherence accumulates. Gossip loses its voltage. Cynicism sounds expensive. Curiosity becomes fashionable again. The coincidences multiply. Teams stumble into the right idea at the right hour. Solutions appear that feel embarrassingly obvious in retrospect. This is what happens when attention stops fragmenting under the weight of unprocessed emotion and begins to move as a focused current. Innovation is not merely intellect succeeding, it is feeling, state permitting, perception to widen, then precision to land. There is also accountability here, the kind that does not sting but sobers. If your field can soothe a room, it can also seed a room with static. You've seen it the day you carried silent resentment like a small storm cloud, how meetings derailed for no clear reason. The mirror is faithful. It does not accuse, it reports. When you notice the report, you correct the tone not with self-punishment, but with a breath, a hand to heart, a return to honest frequency. The collective is reading you whether you intend it or not. Read yourself first. Let the scale of the task not frighten you. Systems shift at thresholds, not through endless effort. Enough nodes stabilize and the lattice flips phase transition at the level of culture. This is the science beneath the mystic's prayer. The moment a critical mass of observers maintain coherence long enough, new norms crystallize. Slower conversations that yield better outcomes, agreements made without coercion, institutions that remember their purpose. You will help midwife this not by shouting prophecy from rooftops, but by living as if the prophecy were already the weather. Hold close this paradox. You are both insignificant and essential. A single violin does not make a symphony, yet an orchestra without the violins is missing its sky. Your frequency is not the whole story. It is a necessary line within it. When you stand in that humility, your authority becomes clean. You can bless a space without announcing it. You can decline a pattern without condemning it. You can invite a future without despising the past. And as you walk, you will feel the world leaning in curious, tentative, hopeful. People won't always have the words for what shifts around you. They will tell you they feel calmer, clearer, braver. They will make decisions that honor their lives and call it coincidence. You will know it as the mirror doing what mirrors do, returning, with exquisite fidelity, the tone you have chosen to keep. You arrive at the hinge, the hush before weather breaks, the lucid second where a flock turns as one, and you can almost feel the mathematics in their wings. Here the world thin. Here the two great corridors of possibility run side by side like rails, close enough to touch, different enough to carry you to opposite shores. You have felt this place before, as unease, as a tug you tried to outrun. Tonight you see it clearly, the bifurcation line, a luminous seam where your next honest breath will choose the slope of your days. Stand still and listen. The first corridor hums with the familiar, habits stitched from survival, timelines lit by fluorescent certainty, efficiency tightening like a band around the ribs. The air is dry there, and the clock is loud. The second corridor is quieter, not because nothing is happening, but because energy is arranged coherence instead of hurry, elegance instead of strain. In one, you push. In the other, you are carried by alignment you helped compose. Neither path is right. Both obey the physics of the tone you are willing to keep. Your body knows before your mind admits it. In the corridor of repetition, your breath shortens by half a measure. Shoulders lift by a degree you call normal. Micro-tension writes small warnings across your jaw. In the corridor of awakening, your sternum opens by instinct, as if a skylight you forgot existed slides back to let the high air in. This is guidance, not sentiment. Expansion is a metric. Constriction is a metric. The field communicates in these measurements and waits for an answer you can only give from the chest. Look down and you will notice markers on the seams, cymatic glyphs that pulse when your attention rests on them. One reads friction, another reads flow, a third whispers integrity so softly you hear it with your bones. Every glyph is a question disguised as light. Will you trade agreement for coherence? Will you keep your lens clean when the room prefers fog? Will you let your emotion tell the truth while your story begs for camouflage? Your reply is not verbal, it is a frequency. The seam is bilingual, it understands words and it believes tone. You try on futures the way a shoreline tries on the tide. In the corridor of habit, you see days stacked like crates, orderly, heavy, hard to reach. Your observer loop copies yesterday's settings and calls it stability. Synchronicity thins until it becomes a rumor you no longer trust. In the corridor of remembrance, you see fewer objects and more vectors, conversations as turning points, meetings as handshakes with versions of you haven't met yet. Serendipity clusters like wildflowers after rain. Your work becomes accurate rather than busy. Your rest becomes service rather than escape. There is a cost either way. In repetition, the price is numbness, cheap at first, bankrupting later. In awakening, the price is honesty, expensive early, compound interest in grace. Honesty tears down decoys, the script that told you to apologize for wanting a beautiful life, the posture that kept you smaller than your assignment, the negotiations you made with fatigue, as if fatigue were a king. When you pay with honesty, the field pays you back in timing. Doors swing when you arrive, not because you forced them, but because your frequency matched the hinge. Now the split sharpens. Two versions of you stand an arm's length apart, the difference so subtle it would be invisible to a camera and unmistakable to a tuning fork. One carries a polished mask and tired eyes. The other carries unguarded presence and a spine like a singing line. Neither condemns the other. They bow across the seam. You feel the ache of kindness for the one who stayed safe so you could live long enough to choose differently. You feel the pull of kinship toward the one who will spend that life in wonder. Choose with your breath. 4 counts in. Hold for the quiet click where fear would usually speak. 6 counts out. On the hold, put your hand to your chest and tell the field what you're willing to keep. I will keep a clean tone, even when it costs applause. I will keep slow listening when speed would earn me praise. I will keep gratitude when grievance would win me belonging. The seam brightens at each vow, not because it admires promise, but because it recognizes specification. You are not bargaining, you are calibrating. Around you, reality performs its subtle audit. Texts that once snagged your nervous system arrive like airplanes that no longer need your runway. Invitations reconfigure into tests or blessings depending on the frequency you stabilize. People you love step closer or step sideways. Neither movement is failure. Timelines select themselves by resonance. You do not push them into place. You radiate them into relevance. Then it happens, the nearly silent phase transition, like frost deciding to become meltwater at the first honest touch of Sunday. The corridor of awakening brightens by a shade your eyes cannot name. Your feet, without drama, angle toward it. The other path does not vanish. It drifts away like a station you pass without disembarking. You feel the relief of a truth that needed no war to win. You did not conquer a destiny, you matched one. As you step, the seam seals behind you with a tenderness that feels like being known. No trumpet, no verdict, just alignment clicking into place. The bridge you saw earlier extends a fraction further into the visible, as if grateful for your consent. Ahead, the air grows spacious. The choir of your cells retunes. The world clears its throat to sing the next line with you. And without announcing it, you enter a life that answers when called by your most honest tone. Now you make the vision walk. Not by grand declarations, but by 1,000 precise gestures that teach your nervous system the new key until it hums there without effort. Integration is choreography. Breath, attention, behavior, and environment moving as one organism. The bridge becomes a boulevard when your hours agree with your intentions. Begin where electricity first touches biology, your breath. 4 counts in, pause for the soft click where the mind would usually rush. 6 to 8 counts out. Do this not as performance but as policy, the way a violinist tunes before every piece. Morning, midday, night. The ratio is the metronome of coherence. It smooths your heart's waveform, teaches your brain to couple instead of chatter, and tells the field, we are transmitting on purpose. You will be astonished how decisions that once felt knotted begin to slide loose after 3 honest minutes of air. Next, make your posture an antenna. Lengthen the spine not in pride but in availability. Imagine a thin thread lifting the crown as if the sky remembered your name. Shoulders down and back just enough to let the sternum breathe light. This is not cosmetic. Posture shifts the geometry of your electromagnetic field. Openness is literal signal quality. When conversations tighten, check your shape before your story. Often the frequency you want cannot pass through a collapsed frame. Language, now your mouth is a control surface. Retire the phrases that fog your lens. I'm overwhelmed. Nothing ever works. That's just how it is. These are not observations, they are programming statements. Replace them with accurate frequencies. This is a lot, and I can pace it. I don't see the route yet, but I am available to it. I choose what I can influence. I bless what I can't. Precision is devotion. The field respects it. Curate input. Your attention is sovereign land. Not every broadcast earns entry. Audit your feeds, rooms, and routines through a single question. Does this make my signal clearer or noisier? Keep what tunes, release what phrase. This is not moralism, it is engineering. If a conversation leaves you static, charged, and cynical, mend the circuit. More silence, more trees, more art, more breath. Your future requires bandwidth. Guard it without apology. Ritual is the scaffold that holds the new frequency until it becomes habit. Choose simple anchor points and make them non-negotiable. Morning, hand to heart, 3 cycles of breath, 1 sentence of specification, what state you will keep and what you're willing to release. Midday, water, sunlight on your eyelids, 30 seconds of gratitude, specifically for timing. Evening. Inventory without violence. Where did you keep the tone? Where did you drop it? What micro-corrections will you apply tomorrow? Ritual is repetition with reverence. It lays tracks for grace to travel. Feelings need movement. Emotion is current. Let it flow. When sorrow rises, give it water and music. Let your body weep cleanly so the lens does not crust with salt it will later need to scrape. When anger sparks, move it through muscle and breath before you hand it a microphone. Otherwise, it writes your emails for you. When joy visits, amplify it on purpose. Speak it aloud. Share it. Let it double itself through morphic resonance. The field is listening for what you treat as real. Align behavior, or the circuit will arc. If you ask the field for congruent relationships, stop laughing at jokes that insult your soul. If you ask for work that honors your genius, stop volunteering your brilliance to tasks that pay only in exhaustion. If you ask for health, give your cells what coherence requires. Clean water, unhurried meals, sleep that knows darkness. This is not punishment, it is partnership. Intention without embodiment is a kite with no string. Make silence a daily appointment, not the numbing kind, the tuning kind. 5 minutes with your eyes closed, not seeking visions, just listening for the finest adjustments, the micro tilt of attention, the half-degree correction in breath, the truth you were avoiding by staying busy. In that quiet, you will feel entanglement doing its kind work. Threads tug, names surface. A next step arrives small and obvious, the sort of answer you can miss by going too fast. Practice it, clean endings. Frayed exits leak voltage. Thank the lessons that are complete. Bless the patterns that guarded you until you could live without them. Return borrowed narratives to their authors. Release with gratitude, not drama. The field translates closure into capacity. Let your home become a tuning space. A clear table with one object that reminds you of the state you mean to keep. A note on the doorframe. Breathe before you cross. Lighting that favors dawn and dusk tones, teaching your circadian choir to sing on time. Fragrance you reserve for coherent work, so your nervous system associates that scent with precision. You are training a creature of context. Give it sacred cues. Finally, adopt a humble metric. Expansion. Did this thought, task, or exchange widen your chest by even 2 millimeters? Keep it. Did it constrict you? Inquire. Not all contraction is an error. Some is honest effort. But if a pattern chronically shrinks you, it is misaligned. Integration is not about never wavering. It is about noticing quickly, correcting gently, and persisting kindly until the correction becomes your native pitch. Do these things softly and steadily. The observer loop will close with proof appointments that arrive on the beat, solutions that feel inevitable, a body that trusts you enough to heal in your presence. You will realize one day that the bridge is under your feet, even when you don't look for it. Not because magic finally found you, but because you became the frequency it recognizes as home. Set everything down, even the beautiful ideas, even the precise practices. Let them rest like instruments after the concert strings slackened, wood warm with the last note. This is the room after the ritual, the breath after the vow, the spacious inning where the field speaks in whispers too fine for language. You are not here to do, you are here to be tuned. Close your eyes and stop reaching. The bridge does not need your hands now, it knows its span. In stillness, the quantum field presses its ear to your chest and listens for honesty. You offer it not speeches but pulse. A slow tide of inhale, an even slower return. The metronome softens until even counting feels like noise. What remains is rhythm without numbers, coherence without effort, a hum so faint you could miss it by trying to hear. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the absence of interference. In this quiet, morphic resonance retrieves the patterns you've chosen and caches them deeper, like dew drawing into roots before the sun makes anything official. You feel it as a settling thoughts land like feathers. Emotions unclench without a story to justify their freedom. The room widens around you, but nothing moves. This is the physics of permission. Let your attention become spherical. No beam, no target, just presence resting equally in all directions, as if your awareness were a lantern under a silk veil. In that diffuse glow, the observer loop stops bracing for results and begins to savor fidelity. The field loves this posture. Without aim, you are safe from strain. Without slouch, you are safe from drift. You hold the middle like a note sustained beyond applause. Tiny events announce themselves. A swallow of the throat you did not command. A wave of warmth crossing the sternum like sunrise under the skin. A miniature shiver at the base of the skull, as if some old gate lifted one quiet hinge. These are not special effects. They are acknowledgements, electrical, hormonal, magnetic of a system exiting alarm and entering orchestration. DNA listens hardest in hush. Transcription is an art that prefers good lighting and no audience. You are tempted to interpret. Don't. Meaning will come clothed in timing later. For now, give the mind the simplest job. Thank you, not as a spell, but as a lubricant. Gratitude reduces friction inside thought, removes the burrs from the cogwheels, lets the mechanism turn with less heat. You can feel the temperature drop, the psychothermal calm that arrives when you stop demanding proof that you are safe and allow safety to present itself as lack of urgency. Somewhere a memory drifts by an ache, a cliff where you once lived. You do not chase it or banish it. You bless it the way a shoreline blesses every wave, with shape but not grip. Seen without judgment, the memory resolves from threat into data, from data into pattern, from pattern into instruction. The next exhale carries it out past the breakers. On the inhale, space rushes to fill the place where clenching used to live. Silence is a teacher who dislikes lectures. It educates by rearranging furniture in the dark. When the lights return, you discover the chair of skepticism sits closer to the window, where it can see the garden. The table of decisions has been rotated, so conversation can happen without competition. The heavy chest of old oaths has been opened, and half of what you swore to carry has dissolved to air. No ceremony, only rearrangement. You wake to a room that fits your breath. Listen deeper still, beneath the low hum, beneath the polite thunder of blood, down to the plane of almost nothing. Here, entanglement feels like belonging without names. Here, coherence is a meadow without fences. The boundaries of you are not erased. They are softened, as if your edges had learned diplomacy. The world inside and the world outside hold a truce written in tenderness. We will not require each other to be different in order to love. A thought tries to sprint. You smile and let it. In a few steps it realizes there is nowhere urgent to go. It returns panting, curls at your feet, sleeps. This is how authority changes: less command, more gravity. You become heavy, in the kindest way, a presence with its own weather. People will feel this later and interpret it as wisdom. You will know it as silence doing what silence does, lowering the noise floor so truth can be audible at humane volumes. Stay a little longer than comfortable. The last layer of fidget belongs to an old economy that pays you in distraction. Let it bankrupt. In the after-quiet, something simple reveals itself: an ordinary next step, unshiny and exact. Drink water, write the email that releases a tired promise, move the chair to catch morning light, call the person whose name arrived 3 inhales ago. The sacred hides in specifics when the signal is clean. Open your eyes as if surfacing from a lake at dusk. The room has not changed, but the angles have softened. Edges hold less argument. Colors are slightly more themselves. This is the echo you were promised. Not fireworks, but fidelity. You can hear your frequency from across the day now. You can hear the world answer without raising its voice. Guard this quiet like a seed. Walk gently so its coat can split. Speak little so its root can take. And as you stand, let the silence travel with you. A soft technology woven into your gait. It will not keep you from noise. It will teach you how to remain signal inside it. The bridge extends of its own accord, a polite brightening in your peripheral vision. No hurry, no display. Only the most powerful sentence the field ever speaks. You are ready. You rise without breaking the quiet you earned, and the quiet rises with you. It moves through your joints like clear water, through your breath like a bellows that knows the exact size of the flame. The room appears ordinary, but something irreversible has occurred. The signal is no longer something you visit. It is something you are. Activation begins not as fireworks, but as fidelity that refuses to flicker. A single choice presents itself. Small, specific, clean. You take it. The moment you do, the observer loop completes with a click. You feel more than hear. Attention, emotion, behavior, aligned vectors, one arrow. The quantum field replies in its native grammar timing. A message lands at the minute you're available to receive it. A door you forgot you knocked on weeks ago swings, not with drama, but with accuracy. This is propulsion by coherence. No pushing, only phase lock. Your body confirms the handshake. Heart rhythm smooths into that rounded waveform you now recognize as truth's tempo. The fascia along your spine loosens like parchment given to rain. Micro-tremors pass through hands and feet, capacitors discharging old static. DNA listens and begins to retune, not with mythic lightning, but with dozens of modest adjustments. Enzymes favoring repair, hormones favoring steadiness, gene expression tilting toward growth. Biology is not the afterthought of awakening, it is the chamber that rings when the note is pure. You speak, and the air treats your voice like a tuning fork. Words exit you stripped of apology, not louder, truer. People answer the tone rather than the vocabulary. You notice how their shoulders drop mid-sentence, how their eyes stop scanning the horizon for threats that aren't here. Morphic resonance at human scale. One nervous system modeling safety, so nearby systems can borrow the template and print their own. Synchronicity clusters. A book falls open to a map disguised as a paragraph. A stranger repeats a phrase you whispered to the ceiling a month ago when you thought no one was listening. Two opportunities arrive with nearly identical shapes. Only one widens your chest. You choose by expansion, not by fear of missing out. This is discernment as physics. Gratitude follows choice like a shadow that has learned to walk ahead. You test the edges. Old patterns knock, polite at first, then with habit's persistence. Activation does not make you invulnerable to history. It makes you transparent to it. The knock passes through because there is nothing left to grip. You bless what comes without signing for the package. The field notes your refusal to be recruited back into noise by flattery or urgency, and it deepens its trust. Entanglement brightens. You feel companions at the periphery, future selves, allied minds, quiet elders in your lineage lean closer, as if a quorum has been met. Now the prophecy stops being a message and becomes a motion. You do not carry it like cargo, it carries you like current. A conversation that used to require careful argument becomes a graceful pivot, accomplished by a single, accurate question. A task that once demanded brute force dissolves when you respond with timing instead of tension. You are not avoiding effort. You are applying it where the leverage is real, at the hinge, where feeling and form agree. Witness how the world arranges itself around a clear tone. Traffic opens at the exact moment you decide not to fight your way through. The email that could have tangled a week resolves in 2 exchanges because you refuse to lace it with subtle attack. Even your tools behave software that glitched steadies when you steady, as if matter were relieved to serve clean instruction. It isn't superstition, it's coupling. Systems entrained to the most coherent oscillation available. Today, that's you. There is a heat to this quiet, steady, generous, not adrenaline, not spectacle, a hearth fire of purpose that does not exhaust you to keep. You notice you need less external proof and more water. You prefer slower speech. You forgive faster, not because you've become soft, but because resentment wastes bandwidth you'd rather spend on building. Authority sits in your bones, not on your tongue. Then the unmistakable threshold. You stop trying to become the message, and you realize you are the medium through which it prefers to speak. The prophecy wears your face without costume. You walk down a hallway and decisions make themselves in your gait. You enter a room and the conversation chooses a higher octave. You are not performing awakening, you are radiating it at a humane volume that lets others hear their own name. A final test approaches the kind that used to send you into stories. It arrives ordinary, a request misaligned with your vow, dressed as obligation. You breathe to the count you know. Expansion speaks. You decline with kindness. No collapse, no post-judgment. The seam brightens again, a second activation nested inside the first confirmation that clarity can remain generous, that borders can be blessings. And as evening leans in, you feel the field settle like a companion who knows it's safe to be quiet with you. The bridge no longer appears and disappears, it's simply part of the landscape. You are on it even when you forget to look down. The current moves. The choir of your cells sings in tune. The world answers, not as a favor, but as a law. You are no longer carrying a prophecy forward. You are the forward by which the prophecy moves. You stand where the bridge meets earth, where luminous theory becomes the weight of your next step. The field is quiet, not because it has nothing left to say, but because it trusts you to remember. What began as a whisper has become your weather. What looked like a distant span has revealed itself as the street you walk. Each ordinary morning mind, steady, breath, honest, emotion, conducting the voltage of a life aligned. Listen to the aftersound. It's in the way your chest stays open without your guarding it, in the way decisions arrive shaped like relief rather than battle. It's in the newfound kindness with which you meet your own edges. No scolding, no spectacle, just the dignity of accurate correction. The prophecy does not demand perfection, it asks for fidelity. Keep the tone. That is the vow that turns timelines. You know the physics now. Attention aims, emotion carries, behavior grounds. Hold this trinity and the quantum field does what it has always promised to do, answer coherence with form. When fear returns, and it will, as weather does meet it in the doorway with breath and precise language. Fear is not a verdict, it's a request for better tuning. Offer it pace, offer it posture, offer it gratitude that it once kept you alive and that it can now retire from command. Bless the thresholds you crossed to arrive here, the small choices no one witnessed, the honest no that cost a room's approval, the evenings you chose silence over spectacle. Those were the altars, those were the engines. You fed a future with your patience, and now that future feeds you with timing. Do not apologize for ease when it comes. Ease is what elegant systems feel like once they've learned your name. Carry this into the commons. Speak gently and precisely. Touch the world as if it can hear you because it can. Let your home, your work, your friendships become tuning spaces where cynicism loses voltage and wonder becomes practical again. Not by preaching, but by keeping a signal so clean that other signals remember how to sing. If you forget, and sometimes you will begin again where the current first met you. Hand to heart, 4 in, quiet click, 6 out. Name what you are willing to keep. Name what you release. Then move 1 honest inch in the direction your chest widens. Nothing mystical about it, which is what makes it holy. This is the seal. You will not wait for proof to become coherent. You will become coherent to make proof inevitable. You will treat your feeling as the bridge, your breath as the builder, your days as the stones. And when the world asks who sent you, you will answer with a life that rings true at humane volumes. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you.